Okay, good morning, everyone, and a special good morning to Jeff Steele. Today is Monday, the 13th day of Sivan, and we're on page 87 in the Chayenu. If you're following along with us in the Chayenu or whatever, you might be online on the Chayenu app, that's fine. In today's lesson, just as Hashem has the unfathomable ability to create something from nothing, no one else can do that. If he's creating something, you have to repurpose from something else. That's just the way it is. Only Hashem can create something from absolute nothingness. And he can also sustain it continuously. So does Hashem have the equally incomprehensible ability to conceal his energy so much so that it's indiscernible. Hashem created this table, this chair, us, everything around us from nothing, and is giving it constant, continuous energy and life. And he can also hide it to the point that people can say, no, God doesn't exist. Because he can do whatever he wants. This attribute of Haggadah, the attribute of Chesed, of kindness that spreads forth from Hashem's life force into all the world in order to create something from nothing and keep it sustained, is exclusively the quality of Hashem. She'ein b'choles shum nivra livra yesh me'ayin v'lacha yosei. It's impossible for anyone else or anything else to create something from absolutely nothing. Creating something ex nihilo is utterly beyond the realm of created beings. In the words of the Medrash, even if all mankind were to gather together, they would not be able to create even the wing of a gnat and animate it. You say, well, what about lab-grown whatever? What do they call that, Steve? Cloning things, cloning things, or lab-grown stuff, or whatever. Yeah, but they're using, even if it's a tiny molecule of a DNA or whatever, they're taking something from something else and they're cultivating that. There's never something from absolute nothingness. Only Hashem can do that. Right? Now, this attribute that God creates from nothing is absolutely beyond cognition, beyond the understanding of all creatures and their understanding. This is, we can say the words, but it's really beyond us. It's not within the power of any intellect to comprehend through understanding or through the faculty of Bina to really just comprehend this attribute and its ability to create a being out of nothing and to continuously give it life. That doesn't make any sense to us. And most people will say it's impossible. When I say most, almost all people will say it's impossible. If you learn this and try to comprehend it, you'll say, okay, maybe it's true because that's what the Tanya tells us, so we believe it, but it doesn't make sense to us. The creation of something from nothing is a matter which transcends the intellect of all creatures, inasmuch as it stems from the divine attribute of Gidula. Hashem and his attributes are in perfect unity, as the Zohar states, he and his causations, meaning his attributes, are one. So anything that we do could be separate from us. I'm good at drawing. I'm good at playing ball. I'm good at what, but that's not me. That's not the essence of who I am. God forbid somebody's in an accident. They can no longer, they lose that function. They lose that power in their legs or in their hands or in their mind or whatever. It's an extension. It's a skill. It's an art form that you learn. The Hashem, it's one and the same. Just as it is impossible for the mind and anyone or anything to comprehend Hashem or whatever created it, So it's impossible for us to comprehend Hashem's attributes because they are one with Him. So until now, we've been speaking of the specific attribute of Gedula or Chesed. Tanya, the Alter Rebbe will now say that just as this attribute which is responsible for creation is unfathomable, so too with regard to the attribute of Gvura or contraction, which means holding back or hidden in our particular case. Just as it's impossible to understand the godless, the greatness of Hashem and His ability to create the world, so too it's impossible to comprehend that Hashem took that power and the ability to create and condensed it and hid it in a way that we'll never be able to see it. How could it be? It's so much energy, it's probably going to explode. No, it's hidden beneath the surface, literally hiding in plain sight. And that also is a wondrous zach. Elated, and what happens when it's hidden? It's prevented from descending and manifesting in all the creations. And it's not in a revealed way, rather it's in a concealed way. This tremendous energy and light. Related, imagine you turn the light switch. So for a little kid, they don't know. They go over to a light switch, they flick the light switch, and the light goes on. Kind of magical, right? But you know that there's a current that's being connected or disconnected when you flick the switch. And it's very powerful. And if it's not prepared properly, it can create a fire in the walls of your house, God forbid. We know somebody who had an electric fire, his whole house burned down, right? But if it's done properly and it's in the proper wires and it's concealed, it can protect and everything else. So it's concealed, but you know that it's there. And it's a very low voltage. But there's energy and it comes from an energy plant and everything else. And it's still amazing. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. But when it comes to all of us and everything, we don't see that energy there. When you were a kid, he took a key, stuck it in the hole.
I know a kid who has scars in space.
Yeah. So what Chaim was saying was that if we tap into it, we can get burned. God forbid a kid sticks his finger in the electric outlet. However, it seems that within creation, even though Hashem is sustaining it with so much godly energy, but there's nowhere to put our finger in the socket. Where is it? It's completely hidden. And only Hashem has the ability to do that. So this is the attribute of Gvura and Simsum that enables the life force to be concealed from the very creature it is creating. Shachayos mistater beguf hanivra uchi'ilu guf hanivra udavar b'fnei atzmai. The life force concealed itself in the body of the created being, making it appear as if the body of the created being has an independent existence. So everything in the world seems to be functioning on its own. And everyone could say, there's no God. If you want, you could say that, because you can't see it, you can't feel it, there's no way to tap into it. And people feel that way, and animals feel that way, and plant life feels that way, fish and birds feel that way, and even inanimate objects feel that way. A person could say, I have a soul that gives me life, there's godly energy, whatever, but with a rock, as we discussed, the Evan, the stone, you don't see it, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't seem to make any sense that there's anything. So it's on its own, it was created, and that's it, there's no godliness, it's on its own to exist. So this is part of the, we're not discussing godless now, because that's part of chesed, but this is part of the godless of the Eibishter is to contract, which is gevura, is chesed. Ein ispashtus hachayis varuchanius, ispashtus haziva oir hashemesh, elahu davar pnei atzmai. It appears as if it's completely on its own, just like the ray of the sun. Feels sometimes like an independent entity. You could even harness the ray of the sun by using a solar panel, right? Solar energy, you grab it, now we have it. We're bottling it up, we're using it. In reality, the created being has no independent existence and is only like the diffusion of the light from the sun, just as the sun's rays. Don't forget, there's holes in this mashal, as the Alter Rebbe said. Just as the sun's rays are merely a diffusion from the sun, so too all of creation is but a diffusion of God's activating force. Since, however, created beings are continuously found within their source, unlike the sun's rays, which do leave their source, their divine source should cause them to be completely nullified within it, just as the light of the sun is in a state of complete nullification when found within the sun. Nevertheless, this nullification is not felt by created beings, even though they are but a diffusion of God's activating force. For this capacity for self-concealment is precisely the restraining power of Hashem, who is omnipotent. So God's omnipotence expresses itself not only in his ability to bring forth light and bestow it, but also to be able to conceal it from everything that he created. That's a chiddush. Samtzeim chayes erchonis hanishpa meruach iv v'lastiroi, to condense the life force and spirituality which issue from the breath of his mouth and to conceal it, so that the body, the created being, shall not become nullified out of existence. Why would it be nullified out of existence? The revelation of godliness within it would mean that it would be completely nullified to its creator. It's beyond the scope of the mind of any creature to comprehend the essential nature of the tzimtzum and concealment. Can't imagine that God's within us activating and giving life to this piece of paper here, to this rubber band. Doesn't make any sense. And to comprehend that nothingness, the tzimtzum notwithstanding, the creature itself be created something from nothing. This part we can't understand. However, since creation is an act of revelation rather than concealment, something from nothing should surely consist. Since creation is an act of revelation rather than concealment, creation of something from nothing should surely consist of the revelation of the divine life force within the created being. How then do both these things manifest at the same time? On the one hand, the revelation of the divine life force. We have, if something is existing, that's the godly life force there. On the other hand, we see complete concealment. How could the two coexist? Indeed, the paradox of tzimtzum defies the comprehension of created beings. We can't. This doesn't make any sense. It's either God is giving it energy to exist and we all recognize that, or there is no God and everything is hidden and it doesn't stim. It's impossible to wrap your head around it. Same paradox, the same difficulty that we have, the same impossibility of trying to understand that God is sustaining the entire world and every single life, little tiny thing, even the tiniest speck of dirt, that God's creating it and constantly giving it energy to exist, but he is completely hidden. Same way, we really cannot fathom the concept of something being created out of nothingness. What do you mean out of nothingness? How do you just create something out of nothingness? Poof, it's there. It doesn't seem to make sense. So the takeaway for today, Chavra, it's a difficult concept. This is a deep dive in Chassidus and Kabbalah and Zohar. Man will never comprehend how God creates matter and simultaneously hides himself, making the creator unnoticeable and only known through contemplation. Yet the object, nonetheless, is sustainable. So he makes the object sustainable despite the fact that it's just, this is the journey that we're on. We'll discuss the further concept tomorrow of Tzimtzum and the concept of Gvura, the ability to conceal. I think that's God's greatest power. The fact that he created everything, Hashem can do whatever he wants. The fact that he's so concealed that no one can see him, no one can experience him, and even say he doesn't exist. It's also a chiddush. Everyone have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem.